Hi guys, it's Stephanie. Today I just wanted to share with you a little bit about the reflexology class that Jayne did for us earlier this month. Before I talked to Jayne, I really didn't have very much experience or knowledge about reflexology except really like hearing about it. So if you're like me, I was just going to share a little bit about what reflexology is, and then I was just going to share a few of the things that Jayne shared with us so that maybe you would have another tool that you could use for yourself and your family to help with, little ailments, or even something like, even just helping with stress reduction and relief. So reflexology is the use of your using kind of like pressure points, and you're kind of massaging usually the feet or the ears or the hands. And the one that Jayne mostly talked to us about was foot reflexology. So kind of the general premise there is that there are areas on your feet that are kind of connected to or linked with different parts of your body. So this goes back to a lot of them date it back to Chinese medicine, like early Chinese history of using this. And I don't think that anyone knows for sure exactly when it began or anything like that. But the idea of it is that the whole body is connected. And by using some of these points and areas on your foot and massaging them, you can kind of get relief from things in other areas, which sounds kind of crazy, I think, because of the way we're raised, and that we have always treated things so, like one specific pill to target one specific area. So maybe if you have, like a strep throat, you get something that targets that exact area. And I think for a long time, we kind of thought that that was the way to do it. But now with so many side effects and people just getting, they take something and then they get something else and they take something else to combat that, people are kind of looking for more answers that maybe we've had all along and we have forgotten about. So it might be something worth trying. It's free, and it's very interesting. And anyhow, so some of the things that Jayne shared with us is that one of the areas when she gets like severe head tension, that is not on the foot, but she will do like right here, the webbing between the thumb and the pointer finger. And you would then just pick an oil that targets this symptom that you're having. So if it's head tension, we would think of probably peppermint or frankincense or past tense. So then she uses the peppermint on that area, and she just, rubs it. That's kind of backwards for me, but kind of massages in there. And she said usually about 5 minutes, that will give her some great relief from that. So that is something that I tried the other day on Matt, and he thought that it did help, but we were also out that day and he had, a beer. So it might have been the alcohol. I don't know. Okay. So that's one area, then one tip. And that's something that you can do even if you're sitting in a meeting or if you're at work. You can rub your hand and people aren't going to, really notice probably. Okay. So one of the other things that we talked a little bit about was anxiety and just stress and just anxious feelings. So for that, you would look at a reflex chart, and on the foot, it's the toe, the big toe is related to the brain. So that's where you would want to be targeting. And for things like that, you would want to use, I think, but you pick if you're drawn to something and it seems to help you, choose that oil. These aren't, written in black and white. Balance or frankincense or lavender, those are all very calming to the nervous system. So you could use your balance, and then you would rub on your big toe. You can do just like upward and down strokes across it, and then come back across the other way. So even if it's maybe something that you want to do at bedtime. Maybe your kids have a lot of stress or are feeling anxious, or maybe your husband has a tough time sleeping. This would be something that you could do as you wind down before bed. So choose the oil that works for you. And of course, I think I named them already. So that's something to do. And then one of the other really interesting ones that she talked about was someone who had a growth, one of her friends that had a growth of unhealthy cells. I'm trying to be compliant, so try to read between the lines here. And she suggested to her friend to use the frankincense on the reflex spot on her foot. And so she did that, I think, a couple of times a day. And I believe she also took the frankincense internally. But the unhealthy cells, there was a reduction in the size. And so, that's really powerful use of reflexology and of your oils. So those are the main ones I wanted to talk about today. But and then I was going to share, like, I tried this just a little bit because she had this class for us a couple weeks ago, and I've experimented with it a little bit. So I was just going to share that. Matt had head tension and then like some congestion in his head. So I said, okay, great. Let me try these, this reflexology and these oils with it. So we did that. And so I was rubbing his feet, and I was using, I think, Breathe and maybe Melaleuca. But you could just use one. Sometimes I just, combine. But anyhow, so I used that on his foot, and and he said, not long after I started, he's like, well, I'm not sure what you're doing, but I can feel it like draining down. He could feel it draining out his sinuses there. So we did that a couple of times, and I did that before bed, and then the next day I sent a message to see, how he was feeling, and he said that he didn't have any of that pressure in his head or any tension. So, and that's just one time. I mean, maybe it was nothing, but all I'm saying is that it's worth a try. And, like I said, it's free. And as I've talked about before, like with massage and the oils just connected to your limbic system and just the feeling that you get from smelling them, I think that massage and connection and touch is so important, especially, today when we don't have as much of that. So, if it does nothing more than help you connect with your family or loved ones, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I hope this is helpful. And I'm sure that if you have specific questions, you could send them to, Jayne or I, and we could, tell you a little bit more, because like I said, she had just very interesting things to share with us, and she's way more knowledgeable in the topic than I am. But I was very grateful for her sharing that with us. And I know it's hard to make it all the time to stuff, and I wanted you guys to have it. So I hope that helps. And please, if you try it or use it, share it with us, because just like essential oils, these are all things that I'm not an expert in. Nobody's really an expert in it, because there's such a wide array of information out there. So sharing with others and finding out what worked for someone is so powerful and so helpful. So, okay, thanks guys.